Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another list spam, this time going to mid-war and trying out the new dynamic points that they've got into place. So we'll start with my favourite, Armoured Fist. As in version 4, this was my first army I started collecting. Back then it was the Desert Rats, but we'll start off with this one. So how I build the list is we'll be doing 100 points since it's about the standard. I always tend to build my list based on reserves first, so I always have 40 points ready for reserve, usually in mechanized units, and try to have as few as possible so I don't have to spend turn upon turn trying to bring my reserves in. Obviously, with a little bit of a backlog with potentially only having one in a turn. So I build it like that, and I always build my lists as an attacking stance, as I prefer to dictate the terms of engagement with the mission, which tends to be the case with the attacker. So I'll do one for each formation, so some of them are not going to be particularly competitive, others will. You will see me using a lot of commando units because point for point they're better than the regular infantry, because obviously with the regular infantry I'd prefer to have a Piat, which obviously not that common for mid-war, but this does cover up to the way. So although these are fun lists, there's an element of some competitiveness. Obviously you would like to win your games against your friends, so that's what these lists are built. So not probably you're going to do overall well in a tournament setting, but against your friends should be fun and hopefully will get you a win. So let's start off. So first list is the Sherman Armoured Squadron. So these guys had a little bit of a point reduction with the dynamic points, which is nice. Still doesn't give you a massive formation, but the Sherman, as we'll have a little look at their stats in a sec, a very good tank for mid-war. So the formation, I tried to make it as strong as possible with the addition of the honeys. So basically, overall, you have 12 tanks with the grants as well. Not bad. So basically, you can put grants and a unit of Shermans in reserve, and that will be basically about 42 points. So not overall bad. And you'll see 25 pounders and commandos in most of the lists, and Daimlers for that spearhead. 25 pounder gun is an excellent unit for mid-war. It's a decent anti-tank, which you'll see later on. It's a good artillery unit, and it doesn't have forward firing as well, so it can really hold down an objective. And the commando section, better stats than the regular infantry, and they got a Piat as well. And the Daimlers are there for their spearhead and scout. And overall, the 2-pounder at this point of the war isn't too bad, but against the medium armor is going to struggle. Okay, so here we have the Sherman Armored Troop. So they're careful, hit on 4, confident, last stand is what lets them down. So it's going to be the same as the Grant, but if for the Grand formation we'll have a little trick up our sleeves. Trained is 50-50, it's okay. Good cross check, and then the gun is probably the best part. It's AT-10 with a 3+ firepower, and they also have 50 cals and 30 cals as well. And the front 6, most things going to take a bit of chewing to get through their armor. Obviously the 88 is going to go straight through it anyway. The Italians most likely struggle unless they have 88s as well, but overall a solid tank, and nice to see it having a little bit of a point reduction. Okay, so now onto the Grant Armoured Squadron. So basically, packed full of grants again. We have 12 tanks in formation. So we have the Crusaders. So only one. We only have the 1 6-pounder. So that's 89. But we do have them upgraded with scout tanks. So it does make them slightly slower, but makes them careful over their aggressive normally. And that removes tally-ho as well. So, and we also have John Currie, which we'll have a little look at as well. And you can see the support units are pretty much exactly the same again. But solid support unit, commander units, brilliant. But we'll have a little look at the stats now. Okay, so here we have the Grant, which I think is a very good tank for mid-war. The front armor 5 is pretty good. It's careful, it's trained. Confident. Last stand is good. No, sorry, the remount is good on a 3+, but the last stand ain't great. Now you noticed everything is units of 3. That's all you can do for the British, unfortunately. Ideally, I like to have units of 4, but there we go. But the thing I like about the tank is not only do you have an 89 main gun, you also have a turret, which is effectively a 2-pounder for 87, but you can fire both each turn, and you'd be surprised how many units you will kill with this like throwaway shot you have from the 2-pounder, or the 37mm gun, sorry. And I think it's quite handy, but we do have an ability to help with the last stand in this list. You can do it with the Shermans as well, but it's just it eats up a lot of points. Okay, so we have the John Currie command card, so it's 8 points, but everything that doesn't have tally-ho has a 3+ last stand. So if you don't get your grants in and they're bad spirits, it will keep them in the fight, because that 5+ is pretty difficult. And because the Crusaders have the scout tanks, which removes tally-ho, that will affect them as well, because they also have a terrible last stand rating. But 8 points, quite a lot there, but will it be worth it? I haven't used it that much, but I think having a 3+ last stand over 5+ will stop your expensive tank units running away. Okay, so now we're on to the Death or Glory Squadron. So there's 2 of these. This one has the Valentines as the HQ. So you have a Valentine 3 2-pounder with some Crusader close support. So they just have like a howitzer. They're all right. You know, it's just a artillery unit at the end of the day. But the Valentine's good, solid front armor tank. This whole formation is aggressive. It can be a problem, but your opponent does need to hit you sometimes. But what we do have is 2 units of 3 Crusader 3s, so 3 units with 6-pounders, so 89. Only issue with them is the anti-tank. In this formation, in this list as well, there's also a Sherman armored troop, so piling in some reserves with these guys. A good unit to come from reserve, especially with the 80 and the firepower that they possess as well. And again, you have your commandos, you have your Daimlers and your 25-pounders, and we have a command card, the lucky card, so you get to re-roll 1 dice in the game. Okay, so here we have the Valentine 3, which makes up this formation. So they, as you can see, they're aggressive, they're confident, they're trained. The tally-ho, so their tactics aren't great. But they're slightly faster than your regular Valentines because they're tally-ho. They also have a 87 gun, 4+ firepower, no HE, so nothing to sing about, and only 3 MGs for each tank. But front 6, again, it's like the Sherman, is going to take a lot of chewing through, and side 5 as well, so almost a box. And we also have the Crusader 3's Death or Glory troops. So they're slightly different to the other Crusaders because their last stand is still a 4 on a confident. But the bonus with these ones is they have 89. The negative with these guys is their front 4. So other than the Valentines soaking up all the hit, these guys, pretty much anything's going to go through them, and side 2 as well. Not great, but they are a lot faster. Being able to get you into some decent positions, hopefully to get that 89 shot off, but don't expect to do any blitz moves anytime soon with them. Okay, so then this is the Death or Glory Lee formation. So the only difference is you can have 3 Lees as the formation command. So these are basically grand tanks in the aspect of the stats, but basically the story behind it is the Americans abandoned them. They're fully serviceable, so they just use them anyway rather than abandon a perfectly good tank. So you still have the stats of that tank then, with the 89, but we'll have a look at the card later. And again, the support is the same as the last formation, but we've had to drop a unit of Valentines to squeeze in the Lees. Okay, so you can see the stats fairly well. The tank stats itself, the armor, the gun, the movement is the same as the Grant. The difference is these ones are aggressive, they're confident, so they don't have the last stand of a 5+, but also not the remount either. But they are trained, and the tactics is a 5+. So you're losing and gaining, I suppose, compared to the Grant formation. But there you go, and it's a good HQ unit because remember these guys are not going to be needing last stand checks anyway. Next one is basically a 2-for-1 on formation. So basically we have a Crusader armored squadron and a Honey armored squadron. I have played this list, and it is hilarious, if not frustrating, because you've got so much speed, but anything hits these things, they just die, and their last stand isn't great. So if they take hits, they tend to run away. And we don't seem to have any infantry involved. I think I did this last time, but it just isn't the point. Basically, an entire squadron is going to have to go in reserve. But the Crusaders are decent enough. They got the 6-pounders, so they can punch. You also have the 25-pounders as well to help out, and 2 spearhead units, because I had the points to get you around. And the Daimlers are basically the same gun as the Honey anyway, and scouts, so keep them hidden a little bit more. And we also have an OP to follow up to help, because the artillery is probably going to be very useful in this list. Okay, so we have the Crusader 2 and 3 units. So basically, I've done it so there's 1, 2, and 2 3s. 3s being, in my opinion, the better ones. Their armor slightly better as well, and obviously they got a better gun. Problem is, with all of this formation, they're aggressive, they're confident, their last stand is terrible, and they're trained. And if you do a blitz move, then maybe your opponent should just say you've won, because it's a 5+ at the end of the day. But here is the Crusader, super fast, super light, and sometimes with a decent gun. Okay, so now we have the Honey armored troop, which is in this formation. So armor, still not great, aggressive, trained, poor tactics, confident, poor last stand. Gun ain't great either, but look how many MGs this bad boy's got, 5, so that's 15 shots per troop. I think it's quite good. They're also fast, not as fast as a Crusader, but the thing is with this list, there's going to be so many things for your opponent to shoot at, and if he starts rolling bad, if you think about minimum he's hitting you on 3s if that's close range with no concealment. You know, some people can miss at that range, and then he's got a really big problem with a lot of guns coming around the side, but it's a fun list to play. As I said, frustrating at times. Okay, so to have a complete contrast to that list with the fast, light stuff, we now have the slow, heavy stuff. So we have a Churchill Armoured Squadron, which didn't get a cost reduction, so they're 33 points for a unit. So there's not many Churchills in this list, 4. And then we have 3 Shermans as well, and a rifle platoon to bulk up the formation. And they've been given Piats as well, which makes them more of a threat to anti-tank. We've also been given mad tanks. You can give it to the platoon or the HQ. I'd rather give it to the platoon. So basically they can do follow me's and still shoot, which is pretty decent for this unit. And again, we've got our Daimlers, we've got our 25-pounders. No commandos in this unit because their slot is being eaten up by the rifle platoon. And we have a lucky card just in case anything might go through your armor. You might want to re-roll it, but you don't want to be losing these Churchills. But we'll have a little look at their stats. So here we have the Churchill 3. Now it's careful, confident, counterattack, and their remount brilliant, and they're trained. They are very slow, fast enough to keep up with the infantry, so that all that matters. They have an excellent cross check, so if you were to do a cross here, you're automatically going over. Their gun is 1810, which is great, but firepower again lets them down. But the main thing which is great about these guys, their front armor 8, so at range can bounce an 88. Side 7, which means the lighter Panzer IIIs are not going to do anything on the side. The top 2 means unless your enemy infantry have 80 weapons, they're not going to be harming you in combat. So you can just plug away at them, and with that counter attack, you're going to keep in the fight. It's a 50-50 that you kill them, but they're not going to harm you unless you get stuck in some terrain and roll a 1, in which case you deserve to lose that assault down your tank. So that's it for the Churchill 3. Okay, so we have another Valentine formation here. So these are Valentine 2s and 8s. So these guys are careful, confident, trained. But we have the Valentine 8, which with a long 6-pounder effectively. So it's the same gun as the Churchill. And again, we have 25-pounders, we have Daimlers, commandos, and we have a Crusader armored troop as well. It's just I had some points spare, and also it'll be useful to stick these guys in reserves with the Valentines, because otherwise you're gonna have a lot in there. And we also have an infantry support card, which we'll have a look at as well. Okay, so the Valentine 2 and 8. So careful, confident, trained, nice 50-50 mix of everything. Their front is 6. The side is different on the 6-pounder, and basically, so again, front 6 is pretty decent for mid-war. The 2-pounders, the Valentine 2s, have 87, so not amazing, but hopefully you can stick it out with the armor helping you. And then the Valentine 8, the 80-10, again, it's the firepower on the 4+ ain't great, and they don't have MGs, remember, as well. They lose out the MGs to have the big gun, but the Valentine 2s do have 3 shots each. With 2 points spare, I thought it'd be nice to include this infantry support card, so basically units in this formation have a counterattack of 3+. So nice, 2 points for the whole formation, with us giving them a 3+ counterattack. So they'll keep you in the fight that a little bit longer. Obviously not Churchills, so they are vulnerable, but they can stick it out. So we're on to our first infantry formation. So we have the Humble Rifle Company with plenty of upgrades for it. So we only have 2 platoons included in this because they do eat up a bit of points. We also have 3-inch mortars and some universal carriers, which is 3 points now rather than 2, and that really annoys me. And then we will see now the structure of my reserve units here. So we have the Shermans and the Grants, 42 points, decent enough to go into reserve there. And then we have the 25-pounders and Daimlers. Both rifle platoons have Piats, and it's actually an ANZAC rifle company giving them a better rally rating, and we have the lucky card. Now the good thing with this formation is British doctrine. You can do a night attack if your opponent has minefields, so being the attacker gives you a chance to get a bit closer. The only problem you'll have is only the rifle formation stuff will be able to move, but the universal carriers there can give you a little bit of a hopefully spearhead bubble, but the Shermans and Grants are going to have to wait for the sun to come up. So here we have the rifle platoon. They're careful with a 3+ infantry save. They're confident with an excellent counterattack. They're trained, and they're also deadly in assault 3+, so excellent fighting troops. These guys, as you can see, their standard anti-tank weapon is the boys' anti-tank rifle, which isn't going to do much. That's why they have Piats instead, so that will give them 80-10, 5+ firepower, but it is only an 8-inch range. They also have the little 2-inch mortar, which can be handy now and again, but overall, very good stats for infantry. As mentioned, this is actually an ANZAC rifle company, so they have a rally of 3+ rather than the 4+ that they have at the moment. Great for 3 points, so you think about 1 point per platoon and the HQ, so decent. There are the command cards you can upgrade them to, so you can have them as guards, so giving them a 3+ last stand, but I see at that point, if you're doing last stands, that unit's probably not going to be that effective. Or you can have them as an Indian rifle company, so when your opponent counterattacks against you, if it's successful, they have to re-roll the first counterattack roll, which is pretty good, I think. But yeah, and you can also have a 2-point upgrade for bagpipers, but basically it's the same 3+ rally, but it's within like a certain range, 6 inches, I think, of the HQ unit. So basically you have to keep your guys close or have one platoon with the HQ where you want this pivotal crunch to happen. Okay, so now we have the motor company, which before Armoured Fist came out was the only infantry I had available for the British. They flimsy because as you can see, the infantry platoons only have 4 Brengan teams. They have their boys and their 2-inch mortar, but you can't upgrade them to Piats, which is a problem. They have a mortar section but can only have 2. Again, they can have universal carriers. Actually, they have to have universal carriers. It is a black box unit. But I've also given them some 6-pounders for some punch, because you might want to defend with these guys. In support, we have our 25-pounders and our reserve contingent of Shermans and Grants. Due to point restrictions, I had to drop a Sherman for a Grant, but that makes it perfect 40 points. We have a commando section, so we actually have a good, strong unit of infantry to push onto objectives, because if these guys take 2 hits on their rifle teams, that's the bulk of them gone, and then we have a lucky card as well. So we have the motor platoon card here. The stats are all the same apart from their brand gun teams. So they have 3 shots halted 2 shots moving, so their fire output is a lot better than a rifle platoon. So when they're pinned, they only have 1 shot each. So if they still got a full platoon, rifle teams will have 7 shots, but these guys will have 8 if they still have their 4 teams left. And if they're not pinned, even more. So as well, I put in the 6-pounder anti-tank platoon. So it's the same gun as you're seeing in the Crusaders and the Valentine 8. They're 3+ save because they're a smaller gun. They're fearless and they're veteran as well. But their assault stats are great, but these guys are not meant to be in combat. But a decent gun, and if you're defending, your opponent's not going to go near them, depending on the armor. And a decent ambush unit as well. You'll probably got 3 of them, so that's 6 shots. And again, it's their firepower that will let them down. And I thought I'll put the universal carrier in here since it's a compulsory unit. It's an annoying little machine gun box, basically. It's careful, confident, obviously counterattack last, and their scout units are not meant to be involved. They're trained and assault rating is great. They do have 3 shots with their MGs moving unhalted. They're quite nippy as well. The best thing they can bring is they've got spearhead, so they extend your deployment bubble. They're scout, so if you don't shoot with them, they'll be hard to hit. But I don't know why they're 3 points now. They used to be 2, and sometimes I used to run 2 units of these. And I've won games with these as well because they're still a unit. But there you go. And I can never bring myself to give them the boys anti-tank rifle. And if they had a Piat, I'd throw money at them, points at them. Points money. But here is the universal carrier. Okay, so we now have the parachute platoon. So these guys got involved with the airborne leaflet booklet that they brought, but with the North Africa book, these are already going to be here anyway with your British. So we've got 3 platoons just to strengthen the guys up. They do lose a rifle team compared to the other rifle platoons we've seen before, but they also have a Piat instead. But you can give them a boys if you want to make them more thematic. They also have 4 3-inch mortars. It's either these or Vickers heavy machine guns. I decided as well to give them the 75mm pack howitzer to give a little bit more theme. And again, we have our regular reserve units. And then we have artillery expert, which is 2 points now rather than 1, so you get to move a ranged in marker, or your one, at the start of the game. And we also have John Frost, which we'll have a little look at as well. So here we have the para platoon. So careful, fearless being their most notable stat here. Trained and deadly assault standard infantry, but the fearless is great, so 3+. And if you can compare the cost, if you look at the cost of these compared to the rifle platoons, bargain. And then also you've got the Piat as well, which is decent. And then they're like your standard rifle shooting stats, so 2 and 1, so 1 when they're pinned. With a few points spare, I had enough to have John Frost, so basically 3 points, a unit leader. Basically, they motivate on a 2+. So not bad at all, but I do tend to roll 1s, so this could be wasted on me. And now we have the final formation, because I'm not doing the well, that silly heavy armor stuff that they brought out. So we have the commando section. So like the paratroopers, 3 platoons. You note that the commando troop is only 1 team, so just make note of that. You don't want to be running around with 2 bases, and that's why it is 1 point. And we have 3-inch mortars as well, and then in support, 25-pounders, Daimlers, the usual suspects. Again, we've had to drop a Sherman for a Grant. Okay, and now we have the commando section card. So careful, fearless, similar to the paratroopers, veteran, and deadly assault on a 2+ this time. So don't roll 1s, please don't roll 1s. And of course these guys have got Piats as well, so a unit that's gonna do a lot of damage. And bear in mind the paratroopers and these guys can do night assault as well. Okay, so I thought it'd be rude not to show the 25-pounder field troop card since it's featured in pretty much almost every list. Careful with a 4+ save, they're 4+ because they're a bigger unit. They're also a large gun, so if you do ambush, then they have to be minimum 16 inches away. These guys are fearless, which is great for an artillery unit because you will want it to rally, and they're veteran as well, so even if there's terrain, it's a 4+ to range in. Artillery, 3+ firepower, 3+ anti-tank, but 4+ firepower, but it's 80 on direct fire, 89 with a 3+ firepower. And as you can see, no forward firing rule here, so they can do 360. So really good down the hold down an objective with these guys. It'll be your own objective because these guys aren't moving across the field anytime soon. And also the Daimler features quite a lot. So front one, side one, quite what you'll see for a scout car. They're careful, confident with your scout stats. They're veteran, and then it comes to assault. But they're slower because obviously they're wheeled. Not on a road though. These guys can be pretty rapid on a road. And again, they have that 2-pounder, so similar to the Honeys with a 4+ firepower and 3 shots each with the MG. Bear in mind, you only have 2 Daimlers. The other one's a Dingo, which doesn't have the big gun, but you can always fob shots off onto him. That's what I always try to do. And before we close out, there's 3 build formations that you have in your command cards. So not in the book, but something you can build. Daimler Armored Car Squadron. There are 2 other Armored Car Squadrons that you can do, but this is my main one because you can build the formation for 9 points. Because you can have a HQ for 3 points and then 2 units of Daimlers. Used to run it. I used to actually run it with a Honey and Crusader Squadron. So then it'd be 3 formations on the table. That was quite fun. But yeah, 9-point formation right there. These ones I don't tend to run myself, but I quite like them. So we have the New Zealand Divisional Cavalry. So this is basically a small Honey squadron with universal carriers. It used to be a bit better since the universal carriers used to be a point cheaper. And then the other one we'll look at next. Okay, and then we have the Australian Divisional Cavalry, which was similar to the first, but with Crusader 2s this time. So I quite like these little formations, nice little thematic. Obviously difficult to build a list around it, being Crusader 2s, but a good secondary formation, let's say. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I do quite enjoy making lists. Hopefully you enjoy watching it. Hopefully it's given you some ideas. Obviously feel free to tinker anything. Obviously this is how I play the game and how I approach the game, which is going to be different to everyone, but that's why the game is great, because you've got the same tools but you use them slightly differently. So hopefully this video will go out before the Berlin German book, and basically as soon as I get a chance to digest that, I'll do a list spam for that. So let me know if you like these, and I'll do more. I can do them every few weeks, and I plan to alternate between mid-war and late war. Obviously Berlin German will be definitely happening, but other than that, what late war one should I do next? Probably Bulge German, but if you don't want that one next, drop down in the comments what one for late war. And then for mid war, no doubt I know someone will go Avanti, which I'm more than happy to do. I quite enjoy making those Avanti lists, but yeah, let me know what mid war list you'd like me to do next.